Hello YouTube and Rumble community, and thank you for your attention. Today is, of course, Saturday, 21st of June, and happy weekend, everybody. I have prepared quite a number of news on major developments, and hopefully you will find this episode informative and useful. And without further delay, let's go through this news. I reminded you, friends, that you can send your question if you have one through support channels or support lines, and also you can use a round feature on Rumble or the super chat, as it's also known. Okay, that's been said. Let's start this news segment with this report that Trump, according to Wall Street Journal, has approved the Iran attack plan. So President Donald Trump has secretly approved plan for a direct U.S. attack on Iran, but has yet to give the order to proceed. The Wall Street Journal reports. Obviously, this news is not surprising to any of us. I was saying from the beginning that it was only a matter of time, and U.S. will get involved directly in this and openly in this war against Iran, which is intended to create a regional war eventually and shut down navigation through Persian Gulf, in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. And unfortunately, most likely that is exactly what is going to happen. And when it comes to U.S. attack on Iran that is postponed, according to Wall Street Journal, well, main reason is that U.S. militaries are not yet ready to get involved directly. They are sending more and more assets towards the Middle East, accumulating forces. This morning, a number of sources reported that additional B-2 bombers being sent towards Middle East, and B-2 bombers are the ones that potentially can be used to use against Iranian nuclear facilities. Heaviest bunker buster bombs that U.S. has in its inventory. Israel on its own unable to do so because it just has no platforms to deliver such a heavy payload. So therefore, I think it's only a matter of potentially days, and eventually U.S. will definitely get involved directly in this conflict. And meanwhile, U.S. and Israel, they are using tactics, already known tactics, of so-called negotiations, while trying to fool everybody, including Iranians, that they intend to de-escalate, while in reality, yet again, this is just a deception. All these talks about 2 weeks that Trump give Iran to come to terms of unconditional surrender and that kind of crap. And for example, we have this report in confirmation of what I just said, that US and European diplomats, according to CBS News, confirmed that they are confidential conversations about who would lead Iran next, whether the nuclear sites and materials can be secured, and their potential environmental and health fallout for regional allies from military strikes on nuclear facilities. So while Washington is talking about some 2 weeks that they are offering Iran to basically agree on Trump's demand of capitulation, in reality, they are just sending more and more assets, preparing for direct involvement, and that's about it. They are absolutely not serious about the escalation. This was a part of a plan from the beginning, by the way. I have no doubts about it. First, Israeli attack, then NATO countries are getting engaged, and they will try to weaken Iran's militaries and Iran's military capabilities so much so that after that, globalist Western ruling class will try to use whatever leverage they have over their Gulf states to basically force them to get engaged in this war directly, so that they will create not just a regional war between the countries, but regional war which will be based on sectarian and ethnic lines. And that way, they will probably increase significantly probabilities that this regional war gonna last for long. And this is a key point in the strategy of the West, because they want to shut down navigation into Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, so that main beneficiary of energy exports from region, China, will receive a tremendous hit, Chinese economy, right? And later on today, dear friends, I will come back to this topic, and because a number of members of our community were asking me to explain in little more details what my reading is of the big picture, especially when it comes to this geopolitical struggle between the collective West and China. And I'll give you my take and also some numbers to support my reading of the big picture. But right now, let's continue with this news that Trump once again criticized his own intelligence community, and Tulsi Gabbard, head of US intelligence, directly. Let's watch and listen what he has to say on that matter.
Evidence that they are at this point.
Well, then my intelligence community is wrong. Who in the intelligence community said that?
Your director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
She's wrong.
That's it. We can listen once
community
again.
It said they have no evidence that they are at this point.
Well, then my intelligence community is wrong. Who in the intelligence community said that?
Your director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
She's wrong.
That's the US president, by the way, that is openly, publicly insulting basically his own intelligence community and their chief of intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who once again proved, by the way, that she is not the person that many people were thinking she is. She has no spine, by the way, and she has no principles, dignity, and honor, in my personal opinion. Because look at the statement that she come up with in response to recent media reports about she being disagree with Trump's assessment that Iran is about to create nuclear weapon. Let's read what she has to say. The dishonest media is internationally taking my testimony out of context and spreading fake news as a way to manufacture division. America has intelligence that Iran is at the point that it can produce a nuclear weapon within weeks to months if they decide to finalize their assembly. President Trump has been clear that can't happen, and I agree. That's Tulsi Gabbard, by the way. That's this disgraceful element, by the way. And as I said, there is not a single human being, by the way, in US political class that can be perceived as a decent human being. None, literally none, by the way. And that's how system is built. If you are a decent human being, there is no way this system will allow you to enter some important position. It's just not happening. And story around Tulsi Gabbard is just clear demonstration of that, isn't it? Share your take, dear friends, what you think on that matter. I will continue with this news that Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi made a quite interesting statement in regards to negotiations that he was engaged in with the European officials. And let me quote him. I have told the Europeans that Iran will never negotiate on its missile program and that uranium enrichment is a red line. Iran will not negotiate with any party as long as Israel continues to attack, we will continue to exercise our legitimate right to self-defense against Israel. Iran refused to accept zero uranium enrichment during the talks with E3 in Geneva, Switzerland, and said it would not negotiate with the US unless Israel stops the war. Also, by the way, Abbas Araghchi went to say that there is a trust issue, obviously, in the play, understandably so. Let me give you a short video of this statement that he made.
The solution in 2 weeks.
Well, I think it's up to Americans, the United States, I mean, to show their determination for going for a negotiated solution, or they have something else in their mind and they want to attack Iran anyway. So they had perhaps this plan, and they just needed negotiations, perhaps, to cover it up. We don't know how we can trust them anymore. What they did was, in fact, a betrayal to diplomacy.
So I guess everyone understands that there is no way Iran or anybody else, by the way, for that matter, in this world can trust anything that comes out from collective West in general and from US leadership in particular. And Iran learned this hard way, actually, isn't it? Because while Tehran was engaged with Washington on nuclear talks through mediation of Oman, US president, his administration, together with their Israeli leadership, were engaged in a deception campaign. And this was widely reported in the media, right? And the question is, how are you going to negotiate with such a people? Does it has any point, really? It does not, right? It just simply does not. And obviously, if anybody believes that US leadership is serious about the escalation, then I don't know. I have Everest Mountain to sell to that someone. TASS News Agency, meanwhile, is also reporting that, as I already said, dear friends, Iran is refusing to have on one hand, Iran is refusing to have direct talks with US until Israel will stop attacking Iran. And on the other hand, Reuters reporting that Iran's and US's representatives have had several direct contacts aimed Israeli strikes. So we are entering a situation when you just don't know simply who to trust. So is Abbas Araghchi serious when he's saying that no talks with US until Israel stops attack? Or he's also lying? Because if we believe this report from Reuters, well, there was already several instances when representatives of Iran and US were having discussion. So which one is? I don't know. And also Iran, by the way, threatens to continue attacks on Israel until reparations are paid. Yet again, if Iran is serious about it, then I guess this conflict gonna last for a long time, because in no circumstances Israel would agree to pay anything to anybody, especially Iran. But anyways, we have this report that Iran will continue to strike Israel until it pays reparations to Islamic Republic, according to statement by Supreme National Security Council of the Islamic Republic. So no one should expect any de-escalation anytime soon. Also, Abbas Araghchi, foreign minister of Iran, stated that he will have a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow on June 23rd, which is in 2 days' time, Moscow was very clear that it is open to mediate between their sides to achieve de-escalation, but at least for now, Russian offer was widely ignored by Israel and the US. And on the matter of Russia's readiness to negotiate, Russian President Vladimir Putin made statements on that. He said that he has spoken with Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, also with the Pezeshkian, President of Iran, and also with the Trump, key players in this situation. And he said that he has shared the Russian vision for resolving the conflict and expressed hope that Russian proposals will be implemented yet again. It is good that Moscow is trying to de-escalate, but obviously this conflict was not started by the globalist Zionist neocons to end it after a week. This is a longer standing plan which is directed to provoke regional war in the Middle East on ethnic and sectarian lines. And collective West will not stop if they are not forced to stop. And when it comes to forcing collective West or the Israel, well, there is one way this can be achieved if Russia, China, India, number of other countries, let's say from BRICS, will send their fleet, submarines or underwater vessels, battleships, to basically stop aggression of the Western world against Iran. But will they do it? Will Moscow, Beijing, and other capitals, New Delhi and other capitals, do this? Hard to tell. I just don't know. And there is, there is no other option to force collective West to stop. By the way, they only recognize language of and only understand language of force. That's it, nothing else. And who knows? By the way, maybe Moscow and Beijing already are in talks to take such a drastic measure to send their fleets, as it was done by Soviet Union in '71. By the way, I spoke about it earlier in previous updates, when India was about to be attacked by collective West on behalf of Pakistan, Soviet Union sent its fleet, right? Nuclear submarines included, and they deter collective West from taking such actions. And by doing so, Moscow quite effectively probably play huge role in India's history. So we have this report now that Putin and Xi Jinping discuss Middle East. Russian President Vladimir Putin has told his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping that Moscow is ready to help mediate between Iran and Israel, the Kremlin said after their phone call on Thursday, which was focused on the worsening conflict in Middle East. And obviously, not either Kremlin or administration of Xi Jinping gonna share with public full information about her conversation that Putin and Xi Jinping had. I would not be surprised at all if two presidents and representatives of two countries, other representatives of two countries, are talking about potential deployment of military assets, fleet, let's say, if it comes to it. If it becomes absolutely necessary to de-escalate, because regional war in the Middle East is a threat for Russia, and it is a threat for China too, and for the rest of the world, obviously. But for Russia and China also, and I don't think Moscow or Beijing can allow this to happen. So therefore, no one should be surprised if we will find out sometime in the future that these two countries are actually willing to send a military force to deter collective West from further escalation. At the same time, I remind you, dear friends, that the Russian side is actively engaged in through diplomatic channels with the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and others. And I'm quite sure Moscow is trying to calm situation down and to recommend these Middle Eastern countries, first of all, Gulf states, to stay out of this war and not to get engaged directly, because that will, of course, devastate those countries too. And probably they understand that. So Moscow is engaged diplomatically, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if nothing will work. If next step of Moscow is going to be sending fleet to deter collective West. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that Russian president answered the question about Iran's desire to obtain nuclear weapons. Let me give you some details on that. So there is no evidence that Tehran wanted to obtain nuclear weapons. President Vladimir Putin said in an interview with the Sky News Arabia, I must say that Russia, and this is quote by the way, I must say that Russia, like their IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, has no evidence that Iran is preparing to acquire nuclear weapons. The head of state said, according to him, Moscow has repeatedly informed Israel that if Tel Aviv has any concerns about Iran, they can be addressed. Putin added that some details of Tehran's nuclear program should be discussed and agreed upon. And by the way, we all understand that all this escalation is not about Iran's alleged military nuclear program. We all understand that Iran is not building nuclear weapon, has no desire to do so, had no desire at least until this attack on Islamic Republic to build one. This topic of nuclear weapons is just a talking point, isn't it? This is just a foundation on which collective West is building this aggression against Iran, and that's all. We all perfectly well understand this. No questions about that. So therefore, one might appreciate all the attempts of Russian leadership to de-escalate, to explain the situation, but unfortunately, Western ruling class, Zionists or Israeli leadership, they're not gonna listen. They're not gonna listen. They did not listen until now. They're not gonna change anything in the future until they are forced to pay attention. And yet again, only way you can force them to listen is to basically use force. That's the only language they understand. Hello everyone, I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.